60 Minutes Overtime.
Our guest who's agreed to speak may be the most famous global person to ever come to Somaliland. I have to think he is. Anderson Cooper works for CNN and CBS. He has a nightly global news show he does on CNN, so shown all over the world. He has personally interviewed Barack Obama, Donald Trump, right? We asked if he would speak to you guys, say a few words, and then you can ask him questions, and he agreed. So, thank you.
So, can you all hear me? Yes? Okay. So, my name is Anderson Cooper, and as Jonathan said, I work for CNN and CBS. And maybe I thought I would tell you a little bit about how I became a journalist. When I was your age, when I was in high school or middle school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was a very bad student in math and science. I was terrible. Who's good in math and science here? Okay. Good. So you're all smarter than I was. I was good in English, I loved to write, and I was good in history, and I liked politics. So I went to college at Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. I majored in political science, and I graduated in 1989. So when I graduated college, I decided I wanted to try to be a reporter. But it's a very difficult business to break into, and I applied for many jobs as a reporter, but I couldn't get any jobs. I got rejected from lots of jobs, so I decided that if no one was going to give me a chance, I'd have to take a chance. So I decided to start going to wars by myself to become a war correspondent. So I made a fake press pass, and I borrowed a camera, and I moved to Southeast Asia, and I snuck into Burma, Myanmar, and I shot a story on my video camera, and I sold it to a TV show. And then I came to Africa, and I came to a town in Somalia called Baidoa in 1992. And as you may know, there was a lot of fighting going on. There was a lot of famine. And then I basically spent the next 3 years just going around to different wars all around the world. I went to Bosnia. I went to Rwanda during the genocide. I went to South Africa for the elections. And I fell in love with being a reporter. I like to tell other people's stories. So that's how I became a reporter. I basically couldn't get a job, and I just kind of declared myself a reporter and started going places and was able to start to sell my stories. And now I work for both CNN and CBS. So that's why I'm here with CBS, and we're going to be showing a story about all of you on a television program in the United States called 60 Minutes. How many of you know what a journalist does in the United States? What do you think a journalist's job is? Yeah?
I think it means to exchange information between community and...
That's good, to exchange information between communities. That's definitely one of the jobs, is to inform people about what's happening. So one of my jobs here is to inform the rest of the world about what you're studying, what the goal of the school is, how well many of you are doing, and just to get people so they're aware of what's going on at this school. Are there any other jobs for a journalist, you think? Yes?
Telling stories.
Telling stories, absolutely, yes. And that's why it's important to learn how to write when you're a journalist. So you can write stories, and even if you're on TV, you have to write the stories really well. One of the roles of journalism is to confront people in power, to hold people in power accountable for what they say. So that's one of the things a journalist does, is to try to hold people accountable for anything they say that's not true, or anything they say that maybe they switch their positions. So the idea of that is to hold the politicians and the leaders accountable to people. And to inform people, give people information so they can decide who they should vote for. That's one of the things I think is most important for a journalist, besides just telling stories. That's basically what I do, and I've traveled all around the world. I've been a reporter now for about 24 years, and I probably traveled to about, 80 countries around the world. I've traveled to many countries in Africa and Southeast Asia and former Soviet Union and Europe and South America. And that's why I look very old and I have gray hair, because I travel so much and I don't eat properly. So I don't know. That's about all I can tell you. Is there anything you have any questions?
The story will continue after this.
The question was, do I help, or do I help other people try to become journalists? Yeah, I mean, I try to give advice to people and try to help people when I can. In the United States, we have internships, which are very popular. So if you go to school in the United States, say, if you go to college, any college, during the summers, sometimes you can get a job working for instance, for CBS or for CNN. And you work there for 3 months during the summer when school is out. And you work really hard, and you show the people at CNN, for instance, how good you are. Then when you get out of school, they offer you a job. So internships are very important. And it's one of the great benefits of going to college is that when you're in school, you can apply through the school for all these jobs. And it's a great way to get your foot in the door. It's a great way to get experience and to get a job when you graduate. And it's very important, if you're interested in journalism, to just practice your writing and become very good as a writer. Even if you want to be on TV, it's still very important to know how to write. Yes?
Have you ever feel threatened by a leader in your country?
Have I ever been threatened? But where, in America or around the world?
In America, when the leaders change their position, they don't always admit it.
Oh, yes. Have I ever felt threatened by them? Yeah, not like physically threatened, no. I mean, sometimes it's very intimidating, but it's your job to challenge. So sometimes, sometimes a president or a congressman or politician, they say something that's not true, or they say something that maybe just a month before they said something completely different. So your job is to say, well, Mr. President, 6 months ago you said something completely different, so why are you now saying this? And sometimes they ignore you and they just continue talking, and so then your job is to say, but Mr. President, let me just repeat that. And so you ask them many times, and you make it so that it's embarrassing for them not to answer your question. Because many times politicians, they don't want to answer your question, so they just pretend they didn't hear it, or they answer a different question that you didn't even ask. But if you just keep asking, but I mean, because in the United States, journalism is protected in the Constitution, so it's a protected right, it's a protected freedom, the freedom of the press. It's the First Amendment in the Constitution. So every politician expects that they have to be challenged by reporters, and they don't like it, but it's just the way it is. But I've been in places elsewhere where I've been attacked or punched or chased, and that's not fun. Yeah, I don't recommend that. I was in Egypt during the revolution 5 years ago, and I was with my producer and my cameraman, and we got attacked by a mob of people. And yeah, that wasn't good. So I don't recommend that. Yeah.
I have a question, Mr. Cooper. A lot of Somali reporters get killed, arrested, or maybe don't have the freedom.
Yeah.
And against some leaders and terrorists. And right now, it seems that journalists become crime in Somalia. So, do you have anything to say to the Somali youth who are willing to be journalists in the future?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have a great luxury that I'm a journalist in the United States where it's very protected. As you know, in countries, I mean, in Somalia, in Ethiopia, in many countries around the world, it is very dangerous to be a journalist. Many journalists get killed, many journalists get imprisoned, many journalists are threatened all the time. And it's something, if you're interested in journalism, you have to think about that very carefully, because it's, in the United States, it is a protected profession, but the same is not true in many parts of the world. And, I don't want to give somebody a false sense of what it's like elsewhere, because I don't know that I would have the courage to do what I do in a country that didn't protect journalists, in a country where I could very easily be killed or just disappear. And so I think it's very important. Change only happens when people are able to speak truth to power, when people who are in power are held accountable for what they do and what they say. But it's very easy for me to say that because I have protection in the country where I live, and I'm not going to be attacked. People may say bad things about me or criticize me, but I'm not going to be put in jail. Whereas, in many countries, that is exactly what happens. So I just think if it's something you really are genuinely interested in, you have to take that into account and think about it very hard before you decide to do that as a profession. It is very risky. Yes?
Are you still going to confront another politicians again?
Am I still going to confront more politicians? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we would like to. So I would love to see you wear that.
Oh, you want me to wear this when I do it? Okay. Well, maybe. Okay. I like that idea. So thank you very much for listening to me. I hope I didn't bore you. And all right, thanks.